Alrighty, hello. It is good to see you today. We are going to be, let me see if I can get Krita to show up. There we go. Hi Cookie, nice to see ya. Hope you're doing well. Alrighty. We are going to be starting off today, with, the goal is to be making a solar system here. So, a few things. Oh boy, hold on, that's a little small on my screen. I wonder. Let me try dragging this around a little bit, see if there's a comfortable spot. Holy shit, 10 stream streak, goddamn. I don't know how you managed that, but good on you. And thank you for showing up so much. Okay, that should be easier to see. How's this looking, y'all? Should I make it... Do you guys like that? Or do you like it where I can make it so that the actual canvas is the only thing visible? Because this makes it a lot easier to see what I'm actually drawing. I think I'm gonna probably go with this. Let me just make it... let me just make it a little larger. Let's stick it, like, right over here. That's pretty much perfect, at least for now. It'll look a little bit fuzzy, I'm guessing, because it's upscaled, but let me just do a little bit of a test here. And just make a big ol' colon 3 there. Let's see how it shows up. Okay, it doesn't look too crunchy on my stream, that's good. Okay. So, a few things to note as we are making this. So, oh god, is that a VSync issue? Do I need to figure out how to up my fucking frame rate on my goddamn Krita? What? Configure Krita, maybe? Let's take a look here. So what are you planning to draw? So I am planning to make a solar system for my Callieverse setting. A creative name, I know. But it is going to be a 3-star system that I am working on. I'm planning to at least get a rough sketch of the star system made today. Okay, do I not have, like... I wonder why I'm seeing that weird... whatever. No big deal. Okay, so... what we are going to be having here is we are going to be having a 3-star system with these two being a binary. This is a G-type main sequence and an L-type... oh. An L-type brown dwarf. And they are orbited very distantly by an M-type red dwarf companion. So these two both go around like this, and this one's way around the outside here. And each of these two areas will have their own solar systems. So the M-dwarf and the binary. The home world is going to be somewhere around the G and the L-type. I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be, whether it's a moon or a planet, but it will be around one of these two, I know that much. Let's see here. Well, I think the first thing to start out with, I think we should start with a little diagram of the system. What the fuck is going on with my... Dude, I did not hit enter. Why did it do that? Why is my mouse drifting? Oh my goodness gracious. Let me save the file real quick to... Callieverse system.kra. Save that to my Callieverse folder. Okay. So... I am thinking the first thing we want to do here is just a rudimentary little system diagram. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, but we've got our... This is going to be Alpha. This is the main star. This is a G-type, which is a main sequence star that is roughly, like, kind of orangey yellow in color. Let me find a good example here. Like, it's gonna be something around, like, that-ish color here. I don't think you guys can actually see my color picker when I do that, but oh well. And then it is going to be in a binary with an L-type brown dwarf. Let me just get that drawn out there. So it is going to be a kind of almost like brownish pinkish color. It's a really weird looking thing. And it's gonna be more like banded like a gas giant than it is like star-like. So yeah, that's a pretty good illustration of it. The types are, these are spectral types. These are a scientific thing used to designate different temperatures of stars as different classes. But basically, it is a temperature-based system that classifies stars as different classes. For example, a G-type is what we have in real life here as our parent sun. It's a whitish-yellow color, as you can see there. An L-type is a brown dwarf, and a brown dwarf is not actually a star. It is a substellar object that is not quite at the level of nuclear fusion. So, we've got these two here, and they are going to have their own system together because they are a very close binary, which means they orbit one another at a very small distance, so they share all of their planets. And then much further out in the system, there is going to be, I think it's Gamma, I think is the letter for it. I don't fucking know. But it is an M-type. And an M-type is a red dwarf. And red dwarf stars are, as you would expect, kind of a reddish-orangish color. Something a bit redder than that. Let me find something a little redder. Yeah, something kind of like that. Mix of those two. An M-type star is a red dwarf, and red dwarf stars are the least massive things that actually can do nuclear fusion. Hold on a second, y'all. Alright, so, since we've got both of these areas all planned out, I'm going to turn the music down a little bit just so I can hear myself think. Oh my god. Oh, fuck. So, our first order of business here is sorting out what the actual planets are going to be. For the Alpha and Beta system, I know I want the first planet. Oh my goodness, I cannot draw a circle for the life of me, but that's okay, because it doesn't have to look fancy, it just has to work. This is going to be B, and B is going to be a hot Jupiter, which means it's a gas giant. And gas giants are very massive. This is going to orbit very close to the binary stars. So I gotta do a little sketching out of very hot clouds there. It would likely be kind of a darker color, I think. It doesn't matter right now about the specifics of the appearance, but what does matter is that this planet is a hot Jupiter. And the hot Jupiter is a type of gas giant that orbits very close to their parent stars. And because of that, they're very hot, they have high wind speeds usually, and are often tidally locked, which means one side will be absolutely fried and the other will be absolutely frozen. So, that's the first planet we've got in the system. I think just to save on fucking... Oh, no. That's not what I'm trying to do. Nope, stop that. I wonder if there's a way I can crop to selection. Let's try doing that. No, that's still... Dude, what the fuck? I didn't know you could select out of bounds. Why is that a thing I can do? Whatever. Let's see. Do that. There we go. That's what I'm trying to do. Let's shrink that down. Lengthen it that away. So we've got some more room to work here. Dog planet? Yes, dog planet indeed. We are starting out with the assembly of the solar system here. We've got the basics down of... I think actually for clarity's sake, I'm going to just call these A, B, and C for now. And this planet will be A, B, 1. Because it orbits both of these. So, AB1 here is a hot Jupiter. It likely will not have any moons. Okay, hold on. That background's hurting my eyes to look at. I need to fill that in with something. Let's go. There we go. That is a lot more pleasant. Okay, so. Our first planet here is that hot Jupiter. Second up, I actually don't know what to put here just yet, so I'm just going to put a little question mark there. Ah, geez, I did not mean to bump my mic. I'm so sorry for anyone that got fucking blasted in the ears by that shit. There's AB2. AB3, I also am not entirely sure about yet.
Fresh meat.
Thank you for the follow, Almighty New. Oh, hi, nice to see you, Gordon. Thank you for the follow, I appreciate it a lot. Right over here, so, I know I want to have AB4 contain... This orbital spot will contain the homeworld. But what I'm debating is what I want to actually do with the homeworld. Because there are two options here that I'm considering. One of these options is that the homeworld is actually just a moon of a larger body, like a hyperterrestrial planet or a gas giant, or the standard that the homeworld is just the planet itself. So I gotta figure out which one of these I want to actually be doing. And the problem is, both of these are really enticing options, but the issue is that, I've seen the gas giant trope overdone a lot, where it's, you know, big pretty gas giant orbited by habitable planet. But this also feels too boring, just doing a normal, like, Earth-like position where it's just sitting on its own. So I'm thinking that the most fun option here would be to actually have, the parent planet, rather than being a gas giant, would actually be a hyper-terrestrial planet. And that, oh my goodness, you can hear I'm getting over being sick because of my throat, but hyper-terrestrial planets are basically really fucking big rocky planets. So I think having a really fucking big rocky planet, which is orbited by the homeworld. So this is going to be a hyper-terrestrial planet, so I'm going to label this hyper-terrestrial. So I think I'm going to have, yeah, that seems like a pretty cool thing to be doing. Having a big ol' rocky planet be orbited by our home planet here, which I'll just kind of rudimentary sketch in so you can tell what it is. And then I think that one moon that it used to have, Callieverse, that was that big ringed moon. I think I'm going to make that be one of the more outer moons, so like, you know, somewhere down here, it'll be over here. But I also think I'm going to put a few other moons in between, like little barren rocks, kinda. Just to get some, at least some placeholders put in there for now. I'm sure I can make something more interesting later, but for now, it's just going to be a few placeholder little rocks, and then it is going to be Callieverse, which has those pretty rings, which are only stable far from a parent planet. So let me just sketch those in there. I really liked the idea that I had for that planet/moon of Calero. So I'm going to keep it as it was, because it was that interesting looking, like, hot terrestrial world type thing. Stuff like that had, the big-ass rings around it. So I'm thinking that's gonna be fun to keep it like that. I'll world build these later. But we've at least got, a general idea for this area of the system. So we've got that hot Jupiter is the first planet. I don't know what's going to be going here just yet. So I'm just going to put a WIP underneath that. I think after the hyperterrestrial, I will probably put a... I'm thinking like kind of a Mars analog type thing, where it's just a little shit-ass fucking little itty-bitty rock. So AB5 will just be a Mars-like. It'll just be a little bitty rock without much of an atmosphere. And then I will put right after it will be our primary asteroid belt. So I'm just gonna, like, fucking, I don't know, squiggles to represent that for now. Asteroid belt. So that'll be right about there after the 5th planet. I'm thinking these 2 planets here are probably going to be less massive, but I'm not actually sure yet. But what I do know is, right after the asteroid belt here, I do want there to be a gas dwarf planet. And gas dwarf planets are, basically like miniaturized gas giants, where they're like, you know, super Earth-sized, like, you know, 1 to 3-ish Earth radii, but they have hydrogen and helium dominated atmospheres, so they are more akin to tiny gas giants than terrestrial planets. So I'm going to just label that gas dwarf. Also, I'm not worrying about rings or anything of the sort just yet, because, like, I'll figure that out once I get to more details of the planets. But I think I want A and B to have a total of, like, 9 to 10 planets. So I think having this gas dwarf here, and then after that will be our big AB7, and this will be a super Jupiter. And this will basically have, during formation, stolen a lot of the mass from AB6 there. So this will be a lot bigger of a gas planet. Obviously, none of this is to scale. This is just for me planning all of this out. But this super Jupiter right here will probably be the biggest and heaviest planet in the system. And it'll also probably have a shitload of moons too. But again, I'm not really worried about that just yet. So what I'm thinking is after that, I'm thinking there's only really like 1, 2, 3 big gas planets in the system, and I think after this, it falls off into a trend of increasingly small ice planets. So it just kind of goes like bink, bink, and then you got a little dinky thing at the edge of the system there. Like something that's barely a planet. So AB8, AB9, and AB10. And these are all going to be icy world. So what I think... I think I know a way to make this look a bit more interesting. I'm going to take 9 and 10 here. And I'm going to turn them into a binary planet system here. So I'm going to stick them up like that. So 9 is going to be the top. And 10 down here. And these are going to be just all icy worlds. Alright, so we've got our general layout for that besides those 2 planets, which I'll figure out later. But let's crop this. No, that's not what I was trying to do. I don't want to transform this. No. I want to crop it. There we go. And I want to get some more room down there. Just so I can fill that background. Take this and move it down about here for now. That'll do. And I want this system to have a total of about, oh goodness, I think it was somewhere from like 12 to 18 planets. It's quite a range. But I'm thinking C probably has about maybe 4 or 5 planets. It doesn't have the gravity to hold on to too many. I don't think. Welcome back, Hourglass Twins. So true. God. Oh my god. That would be kind of funny to make a nod to the Hourglass Twins by having like a pair of binary desert planets somewhere in the system. Finally, I've been unsilenced. Yeah, I've just got that set so I don't have people coming in, like, follow-botting and spamming me or some shit. It's never happened, but I'm just worried it will someday. But yeah, hello, nice to see you, Gordon. But yeah, I think this, for now at least, is a pretty solid layout. I don't really know what to do here just yet. Something. I'll do something there. I don't know, we'll come back to that. But, next we are going to start on C's system here, and I think because it's a red dwarf, it is not going to have any gas giants, because it's a very small star. So I think the first planet that I'm going to give it, I think it would be fun to give it a little, well, not a little, but give it a very hot super Earth as its first planet. Just some, like, scorched little world that's tidally locked to C. So it's gonna have, you know, the very hot banding on its surface there. I think I'll actually illustrate that real quick just to get to really get the point across. So that's just gonna get that red, get the orange, and that orange will fall off into more muted colors and bands of rock. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That's just to illustrate that it is a tidally locked planet. I think most of, if not all, of C's planets will be tidally locked to it. I think the only one for AB will probably be AB1 that's tidally locked. I will actually, let me get a red here, and I will just mark that this is tidally locked. And I will mark that this is tidally locked in that red, just so I know later on. So C1 is going to be that hot super Earth. Yeah, lava ocean on one side of the planet because this side is stuck facing C. And C1 is going to be very close to it. So it is going to be both from tidal stress from the star and heat from the star that will be causing it to have a liquid lava ocean on one side of it. And I think the next planet that I want to have here, I think I want to have, I don't really have a Venus analog yet, so I don't need analogs for real-life planets, but I do think they're fun. So I think having, like, a miniature Venus would be fun here. Like, C2 here. This will just be a Venusian planet with a thick atmosphere. I'm just gonna, like, I don't know, fucking... Yeah, that works to illustrate it. I don't really give a shit. Not yet, at least. I don't give a shit. There we go. But yeah, this thing, I'm pretty sure reasonably this would also be tidally locked. So it'll have probably have strong winds sweeping from one side to the other, which I think will be really cool. If anyone has any ideas for AB2 and AB3 here, do let me know. Because all I really have for ideas right now is that they're small, rocky planets that don't really have a whole lot going on. But that's kind of a lie, because everything has at least something going on, you know, etc., etc. But, if you've got ideas for AB2 and AB3 here, do let me know, because I'm willing to listen, because, like, I love having ideas. So feel free to brainstorm. But C3 here, I'm not sure what I want to do with C3. Let's leave that as ambiguous right now. But C4, I think I want C4 to have, oh wait, hold on. I know what to do with, AB8 here. AB8 is going to be the one that was recently impacted. So I'm going to just mark that as recent impact. And I'm just going to fucking mark one side like that just to indicate it. Maybe put some little debris clumps around in its orbit here to indicate that. But this is going to be the source of a lot of the geothermal power in the system. I already have that much world built. You can make AB2 or AB3 a mining site. I was thinking that AB2, one of these two, I think AB2 probably, would be kind of like a mega Mercury, where it was like a super terrestrial planet that underwent a collision earlier in the solar system's life that ended up stripping most of its crust and mantle off, so it was left with basically just the core. I will keep that at the front of my mind for now, because that's a pretty cool idea. But that does leave the question still of what AB3 could be. I'm thinking it might actually be cool to make AB3 be a, like, quasi-habitable planet, like something that's not exactly conducive to life, but not out of the question. Like, because home here, where the Canastrians live, is a bit colder than Earth. It has a bit of a thicker atmosphere, it is slightly lower gravity, like 0.98 Gs or something like that. So, I'm thinking that AB3 here could potentially be something that's like a subterrestrial planet or something smaller that might be, you know, basically the best bet that Canastrians have to live on in the solar system. Like, not exactly ideal in the slightest, but it has, you know, maybe some weird native biosphere or something of the sorts. I'm not actually entirely sure on that part yet, but I don't know. We'll figure that out. So I think actually, I should draw out with blue or something similar like that the ice line for the system. I think I actually want the asteroid belt to be beyond strictly subterranean biosphere. That could actually be really cool for AB3 to be a mostly desolate, I think maybe like formerly volcanic planet that died off, so it's got a lot of lava tubes under the surface. And I think those lava tubes could be home to, like, enclosed ecosystems. I think that would be a really fun thing to do. I will do that momentarily after I draw out the ice line for that system and the ice line for this one. So that means that after the ice line, you're going to be having more icy bodies than you are rocky. Oh my god, wait, Rocky? Project Hail Mary reference? Oh my god, fist my bump, bro. I'm so fucking brain rotted. Okay, I think the next planet here, I think I want to have, like, a mega Europa. That would be fun. Like, C4 here will just be a, like, gigantic ice world. Maybe it has an atmosphere that doesn't block radiation from the star well, so the surface is very inhospitable. That could actually be cool. I could make it be like, I could make the planet be rich in, like, volatiles or something, right? Not volatiles, fissiles, that's what I was thinking of. I could make it a very fissile-rich planet, so it is really good at trapping heat in its very thin atmosphere, but because it's a thin atmosphere, it's also bombarded with radiation, so you have to be below the surface, basically. So I'm gonna just do, you know, little fucking ice markings on this thing just to indicate what it is. But C4 here, I think, would be really fun to just be a big ice world with a subterranean ocean. And I think it's far enough that I don't want it to be tidally locked to sea, but maybe it has a resonant rotation. Like, it, you know, it rotates 3 times for every 2 orbits or something like that. C4 explodes. True. I'm thinking, actually, I'm also thinking C will not have an asteroid belt or a Kuiper belt. I'm thinking that the debris that once surrounded C was kind of dragged into a loose orbit around all 3 stars because C is less massive than A and B combined. So I think the furthest out object here, I think, will probably be... Ooh, what do I want to do for this one? I'm going to leave that ambiguous for now. We'll come back to that one. But I do have ideas for AB2 and AB3 now, so I'm going to come fill these in. So AB2 here is going to be a Mega Mercury. Oh my god, there we go. Mega Mercury. Slow rotation could be cool, so it has seasons that slowly come across the planet, but not from a tilt. Ooh, I like that. The surface wouldn't matter too much on that planet, obviously, because it's mostly icy, but nonetheless, it still holds. That it would be really fucking cool. And I know resonant orbits are a common thing in red dwarf systems, so it would make a lot of sense. Okay, there's our little Mega Mercury drawn out. You know, not the prettiest thing. It doesn't need to be pretty yet. But this one here, this will be our... Come on. I'm just gonna call it irradiated. I'm gonna call it irradiated with cave ecosystems. If I can fucking write. There we go. Irradiated with cave ecosystems. So I think making the surface be like dark brown basalt and stuff like that would be really fun. Hell, I could even take inspiration from the mine where I work for inspiration for, like, the appearance of the planet's surface. I think that would be really fun. So I'm just gonna, like, do some little speckling of darker stuff here and there. And there's not really gonna be any liquid on the surface of that planet. I'm gonna just make this, make the big terrestrial here. I think the big terrestrial, like the hyper-terrestrial planet, I think I will make it just kind of dirt. The surface is just going to be a whole lot of dirt with a thick atmosphere, I think. And the only reason I'm giving it a thick atmosphere is so it's a bit more merciful for anyone that wants to explore it. Because a hyper-terrestrial planet with a thin atmosphere would be hell to get down to. And I think because it's in the mid-system here, it's pretty reasonably going to have a big atmosphere. There's a lot of volatiles around here. Hell, I might, you know what? I think I'm actually going to give the hyper-terrestrial, I'm going to give it a few very deep water lakes. like, hypersaline water lakes across its surface. Nothing, like, no huge oceans, necessarily, but it is going to have liquid water on its surface, probably an unbreathable atmosphere, because it's a fucking hyper-terrestrial planet, so if not the composition, then definitely the pressure. Let's just draw some pretty little clouds on there. Yeah, that looks pretty good for now. There's our hyper-terrestrial world for now. So, homeworld here. Ammonia, baby. Stinky air. Oh, God, dude. I think... So, I'm thinking for this planet here, for this big guy, I think I want to just have it be, like, carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide-rich atmosphere. And I'm thinking that would be fun, because then that makes it really conducive to, like, that makes it really conducive to plant colonization. So, you know, when Canastrians come from their home here, which is, like, the first big moon, they come on over here once they are able to adapt to the pressure and the stuff like, and gravity and stuff like that. Which, actually, I don't think I want the gravity to be absurdly high here. I think I'm going to make it a lot of volcanic rock with a very small core. So it's going to have a strong magnetic field, but barely enough to protect itself. Homeworld here is going to also have its own magnetic field because it is the closest, so the tidal stresses keep its core flowing, basically. So these two combined provide pretty adequate magnetic protection to each other. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to do a little mostly inaccurate sketch of the homeworld, because, like, I'm probably going to redo the map of the homeworld, too. I don't know if I want to do that another day. It depends on how long this takes us today. But there's the water. The plants are going to be a really weird, almost black color. Like, dark purple to black to gray. So I'm just going to kind of do some speckling of that across the surface. I'm going to put some sea ice up around the polar areas here. More sea ice than on Earth, because of the fact that it is a cold planet. Or cold moon, actually. I'm going to do that. I'm going to turn my opacity down here, and I'm just going to do some more painting on the edges of, like, ice, you know? Something like that. And then I think I want to go with the original idea I had, that there are huge deposits of sodalite across the planet, or moon. So there are going to be big, like, white-blue deserts. So the deserts are going to have, for the most part, white and, like, light blue sand. I think that's a really fun idea. I've never really seen anyone do something with that before, where it's like, even the deserts look different. So let's draw in some fun little clouds there. Awesome, that's a little crude drawing of our home world. Oh, I got a ping. I don't know. I don't know what that's from. We are going to... I think I want to go again with Calero here being a kind of like... almost an ochre color in the night sky. So it's going to be like a very pretty brown with red speckled across it. Oh, speckled across it. It's going to have some darker areas, obviously. Stuff like that. It's going to have much brighter areas where there's, like, raid craters and stuff like that. But it is also going to have a thick, hot, and toxic atmosphere. So let's give it the clouds there. Let's just real quick redraw the rings over that. Awesome. So we've got Calero drawn there. Our Mars-like here, I think it could be fun to do a Mars-like that was a lot grayer than our real-life Mars, so something that's more the color of just, like, gray-brown. Because, you know, Mars in real life is because of all its minerals being oxidized and stuff like that. So I think having just a little terrestrial planet with very little atmosphere to speak of, but very little oxidation to speak of, would be cool, because then you just get this little dirt ball, basically. I think it actually looks kind of... It has its charm, honestly. It's its own pretty little thingy. The gas dwarf out here, I think I want to give it kind of a Jupiter-ish palette. So kind of that orangey beige, almost, for some of its clouds here. So you're going to have that orangey beige. You're going to have a bit browner of a color streaking through as stripes. You're going to have, like, a little bit of darker banding in some areas. Like that. You're going to have brighter areas, like right over here. Put in some more streaks of that color down there. I think that works pretty well as coloration for that. I don't have to be too picky right now, I just have to get the general idea. The Super Jupiter out here, I kind of want to give it a unique look. I don't want it to be very Saturn-esque. I actually want it to be a very faint, like, gray-blue. I want it to be... Oh, wrong thing. Hold on. There we go. I want it to be a grayish blue, and I want it to have, like, whiter, bright streaks all throughout it. So it's going to be like that. Have those lighter streaks. And then it's going to have more light streaks, probably around the poles especially. Awesome. Just like that. That's a pretty interesting looking planet, I'd say. AB8 here is that recently impacted ice world. So I think giving it that kind of icy surface color, maybe adding some spots of darker stuff on the more untouched side, but because of how big the impact was... wait, actually, I can't really make this an icy world if I want that geothermal power. So I'm going to actually undo that. I'm going to make this a rocky object that migrated out of the inner system here. So it is going to have kind of very dark colors, especially along the edge here. And then it's going to have some darker browns and stuff, like all along here. I think it is going to have probably like scattered lakes of still liquid magma, active volcanoes, stuff like that. And then 9 and 10 here. These are our little ice worlds. They're a little bit like a Pluto and Charon, or Charon, however you want to say it. They're a little bit of a Pluto and Charon analog, but they're also planets on their own because they're going to have clear orbits. I obviously haven't decided on the Canastrian definition of a planet yet. That'll probably definitely depend on a lot of historical circumstances that I haven't figured out yet. But just know that these do match their definition of planets. Let me just get a few more... Colors don't have to be anything pretty, don't have to be anything realistic yet. Just to illustrate that they're icy. We got those. Let's color in our Mega Europa over here. Do some filling in. Get those much brighter areas put on here. And then, of course, those big scratches across the surface are going to have those nice tholins forming in them, so they're going to be weird red colors. Gonna look like that, like a bunch of, you know, like slices and dices across the surface of like a fucking watermelon or something. Yeah, kind of like that, but obviously a bit more subtle coloring. But that's good for the idea that we're going for. Okay. C3 and C5. Does anyone have any ideas for C3 and C5, because I'm a little bit lost on what to do about it. Let me think for a second. Let me drink some water. Ugh. Okie dokie. While I am hydrated, I'm still a little bit out of ideas. Cause we've got hot super Earth here, got a Venus-like planet, and then we got 2 empty spots. I'm not sure what to do with those empty spots. Fuck. I don't actually know. Fuck, I don't know. I really don't know what to do for these two. I could make them... I'm honestly at a bit of a loss as to what to do with these. Because C3 here is inside of the ice line. C5 is outside of the ice line, so I could always just make C5 another big icy world. But C3... ice giant for C3... Well, I don't want to have a gas planet around C, because M-type stars, red dwarves, are a lot less conducive to forming gaseous planets. And especially because it was right alongside A and B here, which are a lot bigger stars that already have a few very large gaseous planets around them. I don't know if I want there to be a gaseous planet here. I'm not sure. I'm a little bit at a loss here. Oh, what do I do? That's actually, that is a really, really good idea. That is an excellent idea, actually. I think C3 will be a global ocean. That's actually an excellent idea, and it's something I don't have in the system yet. So C3 here will be an ocean. That's an excellent idea. And I think because I want it to have a really cool looking huge hurricane on its day side, I'm going to make it tidally... Oh, excuse me. I'm going to make it tidally locked because I want it to have a huge cyclone on its day side. I am an absolute sucker for water planets that have gigantic cyclones. They are like the coolest shit ever. So I could have my big cloud on the day side here. It's got the big fronds coming off of it because it's literally a gigantic hurricane. A few clouds here and there. And then the night side will be basically... What is this song I recognize? Oh, it's Pikmin. Okay. I thought I recognized this song. I was like, what the fuck is this? But let's make that night side be a lot of sea ice. So let's just go kind of squiggly line. Fucking whatever. If it works, it works. Do that. Beautiful. We've got our little tidally locked ocean world with a dayside cyclone now. That just leaves one major planet here to figure out what to do with. There's still, I think I want to make 1 or 2 more planets that orbit all 3 stars at a very big distance. But C5 here. I'm thinking I could make C5... Oh. Because I've got a lot of good archetypes already for a lot of the other types of planets. I could make C5... What do I do with this? What do I do with C5 here? Do I make it another icy world? I mean, it probably will be. Actually, you know what? I think instead of a planet, I am going to put a debris belt here. I am going to put a Kuiper belt type thing. An icy debris belt. A fully destroyed planet or something, but evidence there was one. Yeah, that's pretty much what I kind of went for. Having an icy belt there is pretty much a good way to indicate there was probably something there, but it might not have survived, or it might not have ever formed in the first place. And I think this would actually be a good spot to have that, too, because, like I said earlier, I don't know if you were around for it, but the system hierarchy is basically these two, A and B, are in a very close binary around each other. C is in a very distant 3-star orbit with these two. So it kind of comes in at a more elliptical orbit, a lot like the Alpha Centauri / Proxima Centauri system. So anything that's at the edge of C's sphere of influence is a lot more likely to get disrupted when it comes closer to A and B. So I think having something that was unable to form at the edge would be a really good idea. So let's remove that little diagram illustration. And then the last thing that I want to do here is I want to have there be planets that very distantly... have any planets jumped over from C to A and B? I'm actually thinking probably not. I'm thinking that, actually that one of AB's planets early on in its system history ended up caught in a very distant orbit around all three, which would not last very long. I think I might actually bring C a little bit closer and into a more stable orbit, so less like Proxima Centauri and more like a more standard 3-star system, which I think will also help me excuse the lack of a Kuiper belt for AB. So having a debris disk at the edge of C's sphere of influence works really well for that. And then I can have 2 decently sized planets out here orbiting all 3 stars. I know I want one of them to be, I think I want ABC1. I think I want this to be a big, pretty ice giant. Because we don't actually have any ice giants in the star system right now, if you look. We've got a gas dwarf, but we don't have any ice giants, so I think I'm going to have this be an ice giant that was ejected early on in the history of the system. And I'm going to have it be kind of a faint gray-blue. Like that kind of color. Like, almost like our real Neptune color, but a little bit darker. Kind of like that. And then... Oh, I did not want to do that. Oopsies. Oh my... No! I didn't want to cut the layer. Thank God it only cut it and didn't destroy it. Let's do that. And then... just have some little bands of more color here and there. ABC1, this will just be on ice... Hello, ice giant. There we go. That's going to be an ice giant. And I think I want ABC2. I think I want ABC2 to be something smaller. But I'm not sure what. Do I want it to be an ice planet? Do I want to be a rocky planet? I actually don't really know for sure. I think making it an ejected planet from one of the inner systems would be cool. Maybe making it something that AB1 ejected. That could be fun. So I can make it a little frozen over... Let's just make it ABC2. And let's just make it a frozen Mercury. And making it a frozen Mercury just means it's probably going to be a shitty little rocky world that was ejected from the inner system of AB and ended up settling into this more distant orbit and being frozen over. There we go. I think that just about finishes the basic layout of our systems here. Let's take a look at it real quick. So, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 planets around AB, 4 around C, and 2 around them all, so that's 10, 4, 16 total. I think that's a pretty reasonable amount of them. So I think our next course of action here, what do we want to do next here? Can I start a poll in chat somehow? /poll. Yes, I can. Okay. What do we want to do next here? And I'm going to make this last for about 2 minutes here. Let's see here. Responses. Do that. Okay. This should be up for 2 minutes here. Hopefully, yeah, there we go. The poll pops up. So please vote in that poll there. It should be lasting for 2 or 3 minutes here. I'm just going to put up the be right back sign on my stream here. And just take a second to drink some water, stuff like that. You guys please stay hydrated too. But I'll be right back when that poll ends. Alright, I return. I am hydrated. It looks like the poll is almost over. Now is your last chance to vote if you haven't yet. It looks like only one person has. So whoever that is basically the decision maker here. Alright. I think there's only a few seconds left in the poll. And it looks like... Is it gonna end? Is my poll gonna end? Ever? Oh, it tied? Okay. Well, it looks like what we're gonna be doing next here then. Oh, why did my Krita disappear? You gotta be kidding me, dude. Is it back? No, it's not back. Come on. There we go, okay. Next up, then, is going to be refining moon systems and adding detailing like rings. So, I think we're going to start with the detail of rings here. I'm going to add some rings around planets where they might be stable and where they might be fitting. I think giving AB4 here a thin ring system, nothing impressive, but definitely visible from the home world. Giving AB4 some rings here would definitely be good. Oh yeah, and there's my Stream Elements pop-up. If you haven't joined my Discord, feel free to. I would love to see more of y'all there. But yeah, giving AB4 some thin rings there. I think I want to make it more apparent that Callieverse rings here are a lot thicker, so I'm just going to color them in black so they're visible. So Callieverse rings are probably some of the thicker, especially for a moon in the system. I am definitely going to give the Super Jupiter some rings here. Not sure how thick I want to make them. But I'll just make them decent for now, at least. Let's do that. And then AB8 here is going to have some very, very wonky rings, I think, from that recent collision. So they're going to be very unstable, very tenuous, but very large. So I think that should be all of the planets that have rings. So that's 1, 2, 3 planets with rings for AB. And I think for C, I don't think rings will be stable around any of these. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I don't think rings will be stable. Let me look up. Are rings stable around red dwarf planets? Let's take a look here. How stable would a ring be around a tidally locked planet? Let's see. Well, okay, yeah, obviously on geological timescales, rings are not going to be stable on geological timescales, obviously, but it does look like they can form around planets around red dwarf stars. But I don't think there's really a reason any of these would have them, per se. Because these 3 are all tidally locked, and that basically rules out satellites in the first place. So these 3 probably wouldn't have anything in their orbits. C4 here might have the possibility of rings, but because it is obviously, a Mega Europa, it doesn't really have material to make them too much unless it has impacts happen to it. And because of that icy belt, I don't think there's really going to be much of a reason for impacts to happen. So I think I'm going to leave the C system ringless for now. ABC, these 2 planets, we've already got a ring around ABC1 here, the ice giant, but I am going to make it more visible. I think that just about does it for ring systems for the planets. But that is not to rule out a ring system for any of the moons. So I think our next bet, what we are going to want to do is we're going to want to get a lot more space for ourselves on the canvas here. Like, let's do that. Probably a little overkill, I don't really care. But let's go, boom. Fill that all in. Let's go onto the system diagram here. Select you. And let's bring you down here. Don't really need to leave much space for C because there's not going to be that many moons in C. And we don't really need that. Oh, hold on. There we go. Do that. Bring these further down here. They don't need too much room either. But I'm actually I'm gonna bring this up a little bit at least, because I think giving C4 a few moons might be good, but nothing huge. But definitely the one in the inner system here that is going to have by far the most moons is going to be AB4 here. It is going to have a lot, probably a lot of rocky moons. Oh my god, Rocky, Project Hail Mary reference, Project Hail Mary. Why room so messy? Alright, so I think the first thing I want to have after our home world here is I want to have a little, just a little, like, beat up little fucking thing. I'm just gonna label it, oh, I have my color for my brush set to white. Let's just call this thing fucking punching bag for now. Punching bag. And this little bitty moon here is going to be, like, heavily cratered. So a lot of its surface is going to be covered in basalt seas. Like, a lot like what our real-life moon has, but more. And heavier. Like, even more impacts, more lava on the surface, so it's going to be a very dark object. I think I want the next moon... Oh, I know what I want to do. Because Calero here is going to be the furthest moon, or furthest major moon, I will give it, because I want there to be one in the system, I will give it a little bitty submoon. Probably just going to be a little asteroid. So let's just label that as sub... Dear God, it's hard to write at a diagonal. But let's just label that submoon. I can't believe they turned the dog into a planet. It looks like it has antennas. Yeah, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. It does look like it has antennas. Looks like it's Mr. Antenna's TV time. But yeah, there we go. We got a little submoon there. So I think next up, let's work on this moon here. I think I want AB4 to have a total of 5 major moons. So I'm going to put, like, one more in between here. And I think I want this one, this third one here, I think I want this to be basically a sand planet, or moon, not planet. But this is going to be just a sandy world. So I'm going to just do a little scribbling across it here. Do a little more scribbling. Awesome. And I'm just gonna call it sand. There we go, sand. And then this next world here, and I'm gonna link up the orbital lines there sloppily. Guys, this is orbit slop, guys. You literally like it just because it's planets. This is orbit slop. What the fuck am I saying? Okay, anyways, the fourth moon here. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do for this. I'm thinking... Oh my goodness, let me adjust my damn headphones. Ooh, what do I want to do with this? This little thing here... What do I want to do with you? What do you want to be? Does anyone have any ideas for this little fellow here? Right between the sand one and the very hot one with thick atmosphere and rings. I'm trying to figure out what I want this to be. Let's see here. What would be a fun little thing to have it be? I haven't eaten yet, so no. Girl, get some food in you. You gotta stay fooded. That's the idea at the moment. Good. Good to hear. Snack check. I will do that right now. Let me fucking hate the taste of these things, but I gotta get rid of the package somehow. I got a whole bunch of Oreos from one of my coworkers. So I gotta get rid of these damn things. I hate the taste of Oreos because they taste like fucking plastic. The rip-offs taste so much better than the actual Oreos do, because they actually taste like chocolate. But these Oreos taste like fucking plastic, but I gotta get through them somehow. I don't want to throw them out. How am I literally insane? What did I do? I mean, Oreos are a ripoff in themselves. Yeah, I know they are, but, like, most people don't know that. Most people don't really care. But I've got, like, we've got a lot of Great Value brand stuff around here. And oh my god, they actually make, like, pretty decent stuff. But the Great Value ripoff Oreos actually taste like chocolate. Okay, so, what I'm thinking for this one here, that could be really fun to do, is I want to make it, like, mineral banded. I want to have the base color be a very rich red-brown. I'm listening to the stream while doing chores, and it's really calming. Nightmare, 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 nightmare! Perish! Die! 1 million deaths! 1 million years of death! We now return to our regularly scheduled programming. Okay, so, what I want to do with this little moon here, I want to do mineral banding across the surface, like very visible mineral banding. So it is going to be like a very wavy texture across the whole thing. In all sorts of colors. I'm gonna have browns, tans. I'm gonna get some white spots in there. We're gonna get some much darker brown spots in there. I think that actually looks really cool. And it would look really cool in the sky, too, if you see it passing by in the outer orbits of AB4 here. From the homeworld, you could see this damn thing passing by. It would look so sick. I'm gonna... Oh, I still have that red color selected. Let's just label this guy... Let's just label it banded for now. And I think my philosophy for making this diagram here is I'm only going to be making the most notable satellites for the objects. I'm not going to do minor satellites yet, like all the little asteroid moons and stuff. But this is going to be like, for example, you know, if a planet only has like 2 satellites and both of them are little bitty asteroids, I'm gonna include them. But like, I'm not gonna draw out like the 17 asteroids that AB4 is gonna have around it, because why the fuck would I? So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little symbology here. That I'm going to do like a dashed line after Callieverse here. A little dashed line, and I'm just going to do a little asterisk symbol times, let's call it, let's say 18 asteroid moons. And that little asterisk is just going to indicate how many asteroid moons are surrounding it in various positions. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's a total of 23 moons. Well, 23 and a half, because we've got a submoon. I would call that submoon probably not a moon, because it's a moon of a moon. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Somewhere from 23 to 24 moons around AB4 5 of them are major. Okay, AB3 here. I think AB3, I want to have 1 big moon and 1 asteroid moon. So that's going to be times 1. And I think I'm going to make this moon just be a rock. I'm just going to label it rock for now, because it is a rock. So let's find a nice kind of middling brownish, tannish gray color for that. And then do a little scribbling on its surface there. Obviously, none of these appearances are final. I may very well edit them, but, like, who gives a shit? We're just getting the general idea of the system. I think I want the Mars-like to have 1 asteroid moon. So I'm just gonna kind of do that. And go asterisk times 1. So the only planets in the inner system that are not going to have moons are AB1 and AB2. One second, yeah. But yeah, so AB1 and AB2 are going to be without moons, because AB1 is tidally locked, and AB2 is a mega Mercury. Wait, hold on. I have a genius idea for something really cool that I could do with AB2, because it is a mega Mercury, it had a huge amount of its crust blasted off. I am going to make it so that above, well, not above it, but ahead of it in its orbit, I am going to have there be a Trojan dwarf planet. So I'm going to draw that in now. This is going to be a remnant from the crust that was blasted off of the Mega Mercury. So it is going to be mostly carbon and basalt. So let's just do a little scribbling on there. So I'm going to just label this Trojan. Because I think having a big dwarf planet in the inner system is a really cool thing and very unique. There we go, I labeled it Trojan dwarf planet. It is going to be orbiting ahead of AB2. And it is going to be the remnants of AB2's blasted off crust that collected into an object and settled into orbit. So I think that's going to be, I think this is going to be the Canastrian community's big astronomical debate of, is AB2 here? Is this actually a planet because it has this in its orbit? Does it actually count? But once again, I don't really have a definition set of what they consider a planet yet, so who knows? We'll figure it out. Okay, so we've got all the inner system moons figured out here. The gas dwarf. I want the gas dwarf to have almost like a miniaturized version of the Jovians. I want there to be a little volcanic moon, a big icy moon, and then a slightly less big icy moon. And then I want there to be, let's call it 23 asteroid moons here. Let's call this just volcanic, icy 1, and icy 2. And the volcanic moon is basically going to be a parallel to Io. So let's make it that kind of piss yellow looking color there. That's not piss yellow, I'm colorblind as hell. But, it's going to be that weird little burnt pizza, like, gross cheese color. And it's gonna have all its little bitty pockmarked volcanoes and stuff all over it. It looks like it has a silly face now. It looks like a little guy. I made it look like a little guy. This is literally just a silly little fellow. This is not a moon. Oh my goodness. Oh, hi Lancer from Deltarune. Nice to see ya. But yeah, it does work anyways, regardless of the color. For the first icy moon here, I want to go for kind of a Ganymede-esque color here. Something like that is at least how I perceive the color of Ganymede. And then let's go for something like, you know, a big scrungly formation here. And let's go for that. What are you drawing? I am working on world building a solar system for one of my world building settings. I don't really have a name for the setting besides the Callieverse right now, which is not a very creative name, but I'm working on world building. So this right here is going to be an icy moon with its surface covered in a lot of tholins, which are compounds that are produced by surface volatiles reacting with sunlight. So that's going to be that one. And this one here is going to be more Callisto-like in color. It's going to be a lighter color. And it's going to have more pronounced impact structures, I think, is going to be its characteristic. The Super Mario Galaxy, it's so true. It's like if Super Mario Galaxy was made by a cool non-binary dog creature. AKA me. And then let's get that set up there. And, yeah, I gotta add a few more colors to that for it to look good. Let's get that. Get a little scrungling in there. That actually looks pretty decent. I don't really care about the detail too much right now. Why do scientists copy Super Mario Galaxy? I know, right? I'm surprised Nintendo hasn't sued them yet. You'd think NASA would be, like, completely out of business by now with how much Nintendo cares about their franchise. Alright, so I think I'm going to take inspiration from some of Saturn's moons for AB7's moons. I think the innermost one here, this is going to be, like, I'm going to call this, like, I don't know. I'll leave it unlabeled for now, but I kind of want to make it, like, look a little bit like Iapetus, if any of you are familiar with that, where it's got, like, a lot of dirt on one side, because this is going to be closest to the rings, so it makes sense. Let's do that for that. I think I want to make this here, this one be, dude, oh my god, if I can draw it. This one is going to be a, what if NASA is owned by Nintendo, and that's why they didn't get sued? So true. Let's do, I want to have this have more major moons than any of the other planets, so let's add a few more in a chain here. And one more for good measure. This is going to be like the biggest moon in the system. Or not in the system, but besides our home world here, it is going to be the biggest moon in the AB system. So, I think I might actually do another volcanic moon here. It might be really fun to have a little strange little fucking thing. I know you won't do it, but it'd be cool to have a little croissant moon hidden on the planet. I got no idea what you even mean by that. Not even sure what croissant moon is supposed to mean here. That's definitely the first time I've ever heard that. Do you mean like one that's shaped weirdly? You know the croissant moon in Mario Odyssey? Oh, are you talking about like the little power moons? Oh, yeah. I don't think that. So the issue with that is that something like that can't actually hold itself together if it gets big enough. Because objects in space exert gravity on themselves and everything near them. So, what you get from that is you get that if something is non-spherical and gets big enough, it collapses into a sphere. That's literally just unfortunately how physics works. But let's do a bunch of that there. We got little volcanoes. So let's just label this as also volcanic. This one here, this is going to be our Iapetus parallel. So let's go set the color to something like that. Scream. Don't scream at me. Too bad, you redeemed it. Ah! There we go. Too bad, you redeemed it. You spent your channel points on that. You're getting screamed at. What, was that not good enough for you? I live in a place where I have neighbors. I cannot scream that loud. Like, even that was probably pushing it. I'm too quiet in my opinion. I'm very sorry, but I'm not gonna scream louder than that. Otherwise, I'm gonna get, like, one of my neighbors coming up like, dude, are you good? Like, is everything okay? I live in a place where I have neighboring apartments. I cannot... Not your fault. I'm not going to explain to a neighbor that I am streaming and I have a redeem that lets people make me scream if they wish to. I'm not having this conversation with someone. Silly noise? Let's see here. Oh. What's a good silly noise they can make? Toho, you got any requests for a silly noise? I'm like trying to think of a funny one. It has to come from the heart? Because I mean, the only thing I'm thinking of for a silly noise right now is just a bark, and I feel like you know that's not a creative silly noise. That's just the noise I make. I want to eat the IC2 planet. It looks like a cookie. It does kind of look like a cookie. I can see what. Oh, excuse me. I can see what you mean. It was based off of. Let me find a picture of it. It was based off of Jupiter's moon Callisto, which is an equally gorgeous-looking object. Let me... Ah, there we go. This right here... This is Callisto right here. This is what I based it off of. You can kind of tell that it's just... Moon. Tim Allen Home Improvement. Oh my god, dude. That is my, like, #1 fucking vocal stim. I could absolutely do a fucking... Hold on, I gotta prepare, I gotta clear my throat real quick. And then I gotta hit that, there we go, there's your silly noise, Toho. Got that fucking, Dude, that's been a noise I've made for like 2 years now. I always be hitting that fucking the There we go. I got a little dinky icy moon. That real life moon is just a big tortilla. Yeah, I can see what you mean. I love how this dinky ass music starts playing while we're having this discussion. Like, this is just the most, like, low brain cell moment. And you just get whatever the fuck this is playing in the background. What is this? Police station from Animal Crossing. So we get this fuck-ass music playing in the background, bro. I'm just going to label this one here. I'm going to label this one here Who Invited Bro, because this is going to be an odd one out. This is going to be a captured rocky moon in the outer solar system. And then this one here is just going to be another icy moon, because there's a lot of those out here. And then this is going to be a Titan-like. So I think I'm gonna actually model a few of these icy worlds after the Uranian moods more. So they're gonna have those darker ices. Alright, hold on. I will save, I will stand up, and I will... Ooh. Ah, oh my goodness. Fuck. There we go. Thank you for making me get up and stretch. Titan, like in Chapter 4 of Deltarune? I haven't played Chapter 4 yet. I haven't played Chapter 4 yet. So I don't know. I'm playing dumb. I've had the whole thing spoiled for me already. But I will be playing it eventually on my own time. Probably streaming it, because I've streamed all the other chapters. Titan as in Megamind. Now you know that there's a character like that. Yeah, there's a character that's a whole ass moon in Deltarune. Uh-huh. Definitely. This is true. Because we all know Toby Fox is known for adding celestial objects into his games. Oh my god, I have so many fucking tabs open. Alright, Who Invited Bro right here. This is going to be, like I said, a rocky moon that somehow made its way into the outer solar system. It is probably going to be on a very inclined orbit. It is going to be all speckled with all sorts of craters from its journey out here. There's a moon in Chapter 2. It's cosplaying a baseball. I mean, there's also a moon in Chapter 3. And that moon is a cheating bitch. And then right out here, Icy Moon number 3 is going to be another Enceladus-like. So it's going to have a lot lighter colors. Just like that. I'm probably just going to leave it like that for simplicity. And then our Titan-like here. How directly do we want to parallel Titan here? Because I don't want it to just be super apparent that it's a copy of Titan. I thought El Niño is a cloud. No, I thought the other guy was... I gotta look this up. Deltarune... La Niña and El Niño. Yeah. Yeah, La Niña is the moon guy. And El Niño is the cloud. Like, I knew one of them was a moon. Alright. Back to this. So I'm debating for the Titan-like moon here. Let's see. What compounds are liquid at Saturn's orbit? So we've got a bunch of options here. Ooh, that might be a fun one. So the options we've got is methane, ethane, We got methane, ethane, propane, nitrogen, water, and hydrogen are really our options. Hydrogen is only really liquid on gaseous planets, deep below the clouds. Water only really exists under the subsurface oceans. Methane and ethane are already compounds on real-life Titan that make up the majority of its oceans, or seas, but propane and nitrogen are the liquids that exist as trace amounts in Titan, or on Titan's surface. So I'm thinking giving this Titan equivalent nitrogen oceans could be really cool. What color is liquid nitrogen? Okay, liquid nitrogen is actually colorless. So what color is liquid propane? Okay, liquid propane is also colorless. What do we want to do here? Because liquid nitrogen has no color. So we could add some kind of contaminant to it. And if we add a contaminant, then that contaminant... They're saying in my country, methane, ethane, propane, butane... What? Huh? Huh? What is bro saying? But anyways, okay. Liquid nitrogen. Can liquid nitrogen have a color? It rhymes in the language? Okay, gotcha. Okay, appearance of a nitrogen sea. Let's see here. I'm reading up on this. I'm reading up on this just to take a look. Okay, so a deeper nitrogen ocean would be a whitish blue. Okay. So, what we're going to do is we are going to make that ocean be a whitish blue. I think something like that is probably a good color. We fill in all of that there. Maybe a little bit more saturated. There we go. And then the surface of it is going to be just a lot of normal ice surrounding that. And there's going to be lakes and seas, lakes and seas left over of that stuff all around. So it's going to be just scattered about the surface of the moon here. We're going to be doing this, making it brighter in some areas, because why the fuck not, obviously. And we obviously haven't drawn atmospheric colors on any of these planets or moons yet, so it'll look a lot different when we do that. But let me just get... an in-between there. And let's get some in-between drawn. All over this moon here. So there we go, there's the surface of our Titan-like moon. I think I want AB8 here. Actually, oh wait, nope, we're not done with this. We're not done with this one yet. We have to specify how many asteroid moons this has. So I'm actually I'm going to up the number of asteroid moons that the gas dwarf has to 74. Because it is right next to the asteroid belt, so it makes sense. But the Super Jupiter by far will have the most number of moons. It will have 232 asteroid moons. because it is by far the biggest planet in the outer solar system here. And due to that, it is going to be able to retain the most moons. Alright, let's get rid of this big Icy Worlds label here. We already know that they are. Let's get our selector out here. And point. Remove all that. Awesome, excellent. Let's make that more clearly a 10. There we go. And let's make this recently impacted world have... I'm gonna say probably... Because it got recently impacted, there's gonna be a lot of temporary moonlets and stuff like that. I'm going to say 72. So it's going to have slightly less moons than the gas dwarf, but a lot of them are going to settle down and fall back down over time. And then these two right here, I'm going to give them one major moon that is going to be an icy world. And then I'm going to give them 3 asteroid moons in addition to that. Actually, no, I'm going to give them 6 asteroid moons. They deserve more. And I'm actually going to redo the appearance of these a little bit, because I want these to be, almost Pluto-like in appearance. I want them to have tholins on their surface. So I am going to select that. Select that. Take my weird little selector here. Deselect those. Awesome. And then I'm going to go over to the pinkish orangey area here. More pink side. Do that. Wipe over all that. And I am very colorblind towards pink, so this is going to be fun to do. But I'm thinking getting some good pink accents in there. Then moving it off towards red. That's way too bright. Adding some almost like salmon colored accents in there could make it look a little weird and unique. And then these are going to get a lot darker towards the edge of the actual world there. I think it looks alright for now. I think we actually should make these darker, though. So let's go like that. Let's fill that in. Let's make these a whole bunch darker. And let's make these a bunch darker. And then let's fill in some more space with that. That looks pretty good, I'd say, at least for now. And maybe add a final, much darker spot right over on this side here. Awesome. And then this right over here, we're going to make a much redder color. We are going to do this kind of color here, spread it across a lot of the surface. And do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Oh, would you like some of this on your that? Please tell me someone gets what I'm fucking referencing, I swear, dude. Or would you like some of this on your that? Alright. That looks pretty cool for that pairing of dwarf... Well, not dwarf planets, those are moons. Planets. Whatever the fuck. They're objects. Fucking something. Let's do that. And let's do that. Awesome. So I think that's pretty good for the moons of the main system there. So, how long have I been going? Hour 47. Yeah, so we're gonna get, like... I think we're gonna push through all the way to the dwarf planets, and then we'll finish off with those. And I will refine this off-stream and do, you know, the finishing touches on it later. The ice giant here. This is going to have, I'm going to say, 3 major moons. And then I'm going to give it... $61... 61, no meme. Actually, I'm going to give it probably 81 asteroid moons, because it is way further out here, and is far more likely to capture them. So these are going to all be icy bodies. So this one here, I think I'm going to make all of these be kind of a redder color because of the fact that they are so far out in the system. That the minimal sunlight has caused a lot of their icy surfaces to react and turn into tholins. So they're going to have a lot darker colors here. Like that. I think I'm going to make this moon be one of the darkest in the system. So let's make its base color be something like that. And then it'll have bright-ish areas running through it. Just like that. And that brighter area will have brighter areas of its own. And that looks pretty cool, I would say, for a moon. Let's use that as the base for the next one. This one's going to be a lot brighter. I actually should be kind of refining that a little bit more there. And then let's just do a little speckling here and there. Awesome. I think I'll give the Frozen Mercury 1 captured moon. And it'll just be one dinky little asteroid. Awesome. And then, okay, that brings us to our last actual planet. That is C4 here, the Mega Europa. I don't know whether I should give it a moon. I think I will give it, just out of a bit of mercy here, I will give it a few captured asteroid moons. It'll have 7 captured asteroid moons that come from that icy belt right beyond its orbit there. I don't think it would be able to support larger moons, largely because it is in a red dwarf system, so everything's a lot closer together. Hill spheres are a lot smaller, meaning it can hold on to less moons. So C4 there is going to be the only one that has moons in the red dwarf system. So, that does it for the actual planets. So I think let me check what I did on that poll. Let me check the results if I still can. Can I? Can I still do that? I guess not. Okay. Let me see. I'm trying to find the results for it. I guess I can't see the results after it fades away. But dwarf planets... Oof, excuse me. Let me sit upright. So dwarf planets are, I think, the last thing we're going to be doing here on this stream today. So we have 2 belts. Actually, no, we are going to have 3 belts. I forgot to make this one here. Let me... This out here is going to be, I'm just going to call it the scattered icy belt for now. Catchy name, I know, but this is going to surround basically the entire system, like all 3 stars, in a very loose cloud. So you got A here, you've got B here, in that type binary. You've got C right about here, orbiting around them. These are orbiting around the middle here. And then all around it all, you'll have this big cloud, and that is going to be that. I think that works out pretty well, because that is going to have a lot of dwarf planets. And I think due to the fact that this is a 3-star system, I'm not actually going to have any captured planets in it. All of these are going to be native planets. So, I think the way I'm going to distinguish the dwarf planets, or I'm actually probably just going to call them minor planets for the sake of, like, astronomical clarity for now, is I'm going to have their orbit lines be drawn in blue. And then I'm going to label them with a DP in that blue so I could tell that they're dwarf planets. This also means I am going to change the ice line to be like cyan in color. No, not the whole screen. But yeah, let's make the ice lines less visible. Just like that. And then we can figure out where we want some dwarf planets to be. So we've already got the one that is a Trojan of AB2. I think I want there to be plenty of them in the asteroid belt here. So let's just draw a nice long line there. So we can draw some dwarf planets. Let's get one there. Let's get ourselves a weird-looking Haumea-like in the inner belt here. And let's get one of these. And then we are just going to use a star symbol here to indicate smaller dwarf planets. They might still be spherical, but they're ones that are a lot smaller than the main ones. So I'm going to include those. I'm going to say there's about 8 minor dwarf planets in the asteroid belt besides these 3, but these 3 are going to be the most notable. So I'm going to give this one here is going to be the biggest dwarf planet in the belt. It is going to have somewhat visible rings. This is going to be, I'm going to call this one a little series analog, so it's going to be very light in color. So let's do that. And because it's just beyond the ice belt here, if we want to, we can put a few icy bodies. I don't know if I will, but I am just going to label this one series-like. DP. And I will give it one little asteroid moon. Because it deserves it. It'd be cool. And then this little egg-shaped one here, I will give this 3 little asteroid moons. I'm just going to call this one egg looking ass. I will make this one darker around the equator lighter towards the poles. And then very light towards the top of its poles, because I want it to have ice on its poles. And then this one over here, I think we'll make this one here that will be the first actually icy body in the system. So let's make it a kind of brownish color. Label that one properly. So we've got this one with that nice brownish color here. Add in a few more splotches here and there. Another darker spot all along this side. Awesome. And label this one Icy DP. Alright, we've got that. I think I will make there be, like, 2 dwarf planets past the orbit of 9 and 10 there. So one of these here, I'm just gonna call this Pluto-like. And I'm gonna make this one have three asteroid moons and nothing more. It's going to look a lot like the other nearby icy worlds here. Gonna look a bit like a strawberry chocolate mixed sherbet ice cream. Sherbet? I don't fucking know. I don't have that kind of ice cream, so I don't know what it's actually called. But it's going to be looking like that. Have those brown patches and a very dark patch on its surface there. That's going to be our little Pluto-like dwarf planet. Pluto-like DP. And let's just fill that in just to make sure it's clear. And let's make this little guy here Neapolitan, thank you. And then let's just make this a little icy dwarf planet. This one's gonna be more red. So let's send it over here. Do that. Sprinkle in a little bit of brown here and there. And put some darker brown to really emphasize. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And this one I will also give a moon. That's supposed to be a 1. There we go. There's a 1. One little icy moon there. And I'm also going to... hold on, let me get the crop tool. Extend that a little further. Use my brush to get that. And then... I use that little star symbol to indicate minor dwarf planets, so I'm going to go like that. Boom, 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 boom. Star times 5. We're going to have more dwarf planets out there. Not too many, though. Because there's not really that much of an icy belt here. So I'm actually going to make a note of that. No notable Kuiper No notable Kuiper Belt. Because I don't want there to be a proper Kuiper Belt around AB. Just an asteroid belt, I think, would be cool. And then we are down to these ones here. The Scattered Icy Belt, I'll tackle that one last. But right down here, let me actually move this. Actually, no, I'm not going to move that up. I'm going to just crop the image down more. I don't really care about the layers on this one because I'm probably not going to be using this canvas again. But let's just draw a line right there. And let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do like that, do like that, and like that. And then star, which is minor dwarf planets, times 11. And let's make this one a more clear Haumea-like. So it is orbited by 2 asteroid moons. This one here, this is going to have a moon of its own. That moon will have rings. And this one, actually, I think I'm going to make into a binary dwarf planet. So let's do that. Let's make that apparent right there. Awesome. That one's not going to have a moon. Icy. 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 Truly innovative descriptive names here going on. I know. So, let's get this icy one. I want to have this one be highly reflective, so let's make it like that. The shape is a little odd right now. I don't really care about the shape too much, it doesn't have to be accurate. So let's just put it like this. Scrungle it up a bit, obviously. And towards one of the sides here. Do that. Awesome, we got a highly reflective icy world there. And we're gonna have a bit of a dimmer moon that formed from some of those deeper ices. And let's just stick that right like that. Give it some darker colors on it. The colors aren't the most realistic. I don't really care right now. This one, I want to make this one like a blood red color. Like really, really red. And it's going to have some even darker and more saturated spots across its surface. Very rich in tholins. We're going to make some lighter spots too, like right over here, and it's going to have some little... Beautiful. That actually looks really sick. We're going to give this one a kind of funky looking color. It's going to be like a... It's going to be like a purple. Like a lilac, almost. It's going to be a very lilac color across some of its surface. And then some of the parts are going to be far more desaturated. Like right over here. It's going to grow more desaturated. That's going to be more desaturated too. And then you're gonna get the more untainted ice more towards the top and bottom there. I think I'm actually gonna desaturate that ice a little bit more. That actually looks kind of nice. I can't tell very well how much it sticks out, but it still looks pretty cool, I think. Let's see here. And then our little icy objects here. I think I'm actually going to make this one really, really fucking dark. Let's get a good brownish kind of dark there. And then let's give it some somewhat brighter areas like this. And then in those areas, we're going to give it a lot brighter of spots. And within that, there is going to be patches of almost entirely fresh ice. Just like that. And then this one is going to be a lot brighter than its companion. Just like this. Awesome. That does it for those dwarf planets. Minor planets, whatever the fuck you want to call them. I'm just going to call them minor planets because they're technically not dwarf planets because they don't follow the IAU definition in this universe, but whatever. Then this one is going to have a whole bunch of dwarf planets, so I'm going to be actually bringing this over here. Bring this all the way over here so we've got room for it. And then let's do that. I already know I want there to be a bunch of dwarf planets in the scattered icy belt. So let's go for 44 other notable dwarf planets alongside the ones that I'm going to be putting here. The dwarf planets might get a bit repetitive, but that's realistic, I would say. A lot of them are going to look the same because that's just how life is. It's how the universe is. But I am going to give plenty of them their own distinguishing features, obviously. Such as more binary systems. This is going to be another one of those binary systems. We're going to have another Haumea-like stretched out thing there. Another bunch of these. Awesome. Now that we've got that, let's add some rings to some of these. Let's, like, do that, for example. And give this one... Let's give this one some decently impressive rings. How about that? Just like that. Those ones have some... That's got some pretty impressive rings to it. I think that looks awesome. Let's not give that one rings. We've got plenty of rings already on the dwarf planets. But I do want to give these another large moon. So it's going to be a 3 system. This one's going to have a large moon. It's going to have 2 little bitty moons. This one is going to have 8 asteroid moons. This is going to have 1. And these two are going to have none. This one is going to have 10 small moons. I think that's pretty good for the moons there. I think I'm actually going to make one of these. This one here will be an escaped rocky world. This one's going to be icy, 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 icy. Awesome. And then we are going to start out this innermost one here. This is going to have more tholins on the surface there. A lot of dwarf planets are very red because of their tholins. So this is going to be a common theme, that a lot of them are very dark. It's a very common thing in real life, so I'm going to translate that to this too. Let's do that. That's good. The rocky one, I will actually make there be some significant glaciation on. So let's do that. Because I think that would be really fun to have on an object. If I can fucking draw it right. That's actually a really cool looking little dwarf planet. I like that one. And then this one here. I think I'll make this one kind of like an ochre color. That's a pretty looking planet. Or dwarf planet. Minor planet. Whatever. I keep going back and forth on what I'm calling these damn things. It doesn't really matter. It really doesn't matter, at least not yet. Do that. This one here is going to be a bit of a tannish kind of color. And then it's going to have fading colors into some darker spots. Primarily along the equator here, where it is going to kind of sputter out a bit like that. And it's going to slowly transition into more saturated reds. Most likely from an ancient impact event. So just like that, I think that looks really unique. And then let's go for a bit of a darker object here. Let's put some scringly kind of color in along there. Do that. Some of that. And some of that. Awesome. And then this one's just going to be a little fucking dinky little thing. A lot brighter. Perfect. And this one's going to be somewhere in the middle between the two, where it's going to have some darker, some lighter. Some little pock marks from both. Some very striking formations on its surface. I want this one to be, like, extremely pure and reflective, with a little bit of a band around its equator from maybe an ancient ring system that collapsed, maybe an old moon that impacted. So it's going to be something like this, where the equator's a little bit darker. And then there's going to be a much thinner line along the equator that's a lot darker. And the poles can be even brighter. Awesome. That looks honestly really fucking sick. And then I'm gonna have it have a little icy moon. Because then that little icy moon can be a little bit like that. Looks very pretty, I think. I think we are due for another dwarf planet with a really weird color. Let's make this one, like, pink. Like a very weird color, kind of like that. And let's make it have very, like, almost twisty banded formations. This sucks to be able to distinguish for me because I'm colorblind as fuck. I can't even see pink, but I'm hoping that looks cool. This one here, I think this is our last... No, stop that. I think this is our last one. Let's make it kind of that color-ish. A little bit more. A little bit more. And that looks pretty sick, I would say. That, I believe, is going to do it for what we have been looking to do today. I will do a lot of refining of this on my own, I think. But for now, at least, this is a pretty good, complete version of the solar system that we've been wanting to make for a bit now. I think it's actually looking really fucking sick. So I think this is a good thing to work off of. I might change some things here and there, but honestly, for the most part, this is a really, really solid system. Let me just, for consistency, go back through and label all the dwarf planets as DP. Not gonna take that long at all. DP, 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 DP. Because there's not that many of them. There we go. All those are labeled as dwarf planets now. I also think it looks great. I think it turned out quite well. I'm going to save it as it is. I am going to shut off our music here. I'm going to set us to the ending soon screen. I would like you guys to stick around for me real quick here, because we are going to try and find somebody to raid who might be live. Let's hashtag take a look, eyes emoji. There is literally nobody I'm following that is live. So, without further ado then, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I'm probably going to be streaming again tomorrow. But if I don't, I'll see you guys around. I hope to see you there either way whenever I next stream. So, have a great rest of you guys' day. And thank you so much for stopping in. Bye-bye.